sunny skies and a fantastic afternoon greets us here today as we travel over the borders of the Atlantic and head ourselves over to Montreal here in Canada, because Circuit Gilles Villeneuve will play host to the first round of the Grand Prix series here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacing Live next.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
Welcome to a circuit which holds a lot of history in the real world of racing and, of course, in the world of sim racing as well. So many great stories come out of this circuit year upon year upon year, and the love affair with this place just doesn't seem to ever die down. One of the circuits that gets one of the highest attendances throughout the year in the Formula 1 calendar. It's the opening round here in the Grand Prix series here on iRacing Live, brought to you by RaceSpotTV. Good afternoon here, ladies and gentlemen. It's hashtag Do You Mind. Jake Sperry joined in the commentary booth with 2 good friends of mine, Mr. Jack Stiles and Mr. Cameron Walsh as well. Jack, we're currently in the midst of qualifying here. 8 minutes to qualify, 2 laps to get yourself sorted, and many, many familiar faces turning up for the books on a 63 grid, 3-split race.
It certainly is. We have Riley Preston here for a new World Championship Grand Prix Series, currently 3rd with a 1:14.422. There's also Vincenzo Amico to round out our 2 pro drivers who we have. Vincenzo usually seen in the Shinya Machini sim racing car in the Blancpain GT Series, but lots of familiar names this series. Mark A. Warmington and a lot of others which we saw last season back for another season of the iRacing Grand Prix Series, and I hope they're going to give us some brilliant racing around 46 laps of Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Yes, of course, a 2/3 race distance, making the pit stop strategy very, very good here today, Cam. Michael Partington currently the car on pole position right now on a 1:14.259, but one driver who can change things at the moment is the 8 machine of Giuseppe Ragusa right now on his 2nd flying lap, 1:14.352. He's got to find 1/10 of a second. He's hit the hairpin.
Yeah, and of course, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, I mean, obviously, many people just simply know it as the track as a whole. It is, of course, mostly a closed circuit, but really this boils down to an actual street circuit. You seem to find nothing but street circuit type corners here, and that makes it so very exciting and so very difficult to actually find yourself locked in and rolling around here at this circuit. And it's hard to keep a lap together. It's hard to keep everything together, and we're seeing actually quite a few of these cars starting to step to the side, especially towards the little 6 and 7 switchback.
Yes, and that is going to be the end of Giuseppe Ragusa's lap. Didn't set another lap time here. Josh Thompson is another driver who has the ability to set one more lap time there. He is in the number 9 machine right now, currently in P number 7. 3,000ths will get himself through right now at the moment. And while the whole fact of the matter is for Josh Thompson here, Jack, when you're looking at this battle going on, is the fact that you've got so many top names up in and around top 10. In fact, he runs wide down at the hairpin. That's going to cost him significantly. His lap's going to have to be booted away. This is a very high-class field, and it is to be expected for the opening rounds of the season.
Yeah, I mean, our strength of field today is 4,202. Josh Thompson obviously just making that slight mistake coming out of turn 10 and getting it slightly sideways, driving into the pit lane, so he's obviously not going to set another lap time. Currently P7 with a 1:15.8. There's a couple of cars left out on track, the number 8 and the number 10. So our top 2, although I think they're just doing in laps. Oh no, Ragusa's going around for another lap coming through the last chicane. Let's see if he can improve his time, although I doubt he will. So let's just, yeah, he's just out of laps. He's done there. So everyone's now starting to finish up qualifying, and we have another 20 seconds before we can start gridding.
Yes, and we might as well go through the gridding process right about now. This is how the field will look then as they line up. 23 cars will take to the start of this event, and it's the 10 machine that has the advantage. Michael Partington, pole position, a 1:14.259. He's joined on the front row by Giuseppe Ragusa there in second position. Riley Preston will start on row number 2, the unluckiest man in Formula 1 on Sim Racing's platforms today. Matt Farrow will start in 4th. Martin van Loozenhoorn, formerly of Apex Racing UK, in position number 5. Manu Domingo, a driver second in the championship last season, starts in 6th. Josh Thompson will start in 7th position with Zoran Jonic there in 18th, well, in 8th position even. Tommy Osgaard starts in 9th with Reynaldo Augusto rounding out the top 10. And there you look further down, the likes of Mark Warmington for Blue Flag Racing, Evan Lathoris, Carl Winkler, and Jorge Martinez right there in P number 14. Surprisingly down the orders, Vincenzo Amico in position number 16 here, and the Dimov brothers, Peter and Gallin, 17th and 18th. Rounding out the grid then will be 2 drivers of Neil de Guzman and Matteo Calistani for 23 on this grid today. 2 minutes to get everyone sorted up onto the field and get themselves ready to go. It's going to be a very difficult start to this event because it is a very narrow turn 1 and turn 2 section. You will realize there is also a short run to turn number 1, so getting positions off the start is going to be a lot more difficult than meets the eye here today. We're talking about what happened last time we were here in the Grand Prix series, and what happened here was about half the field got wiped out in the opening corner. We're going to hope for a clean start here today. Of course, the walls are narrow with the street circuit layout that is here today. And, well, there will be a lot of eyes looking to try and get some good form after what was some pretty good racing that we saw yesterday in the iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series, which took place at Silverstone. Just 15 seconds now remain then before the start of this grid. Engine notes starting to get a little bit impatient here. And let's get ourselves underway. 46 laps. He's on the grid and going. Partington doesn't get the best start in the world. Side by side, they'll go into turn number 1. And Ragusa is going to hold it around the outside, inside for turn number 2. And he's going to try and hold that run, get it away. He will, as he now moves himself up further in the positions. We are almost all clean, are we? We are all clean. And Thompson runs into a few issues in the early goes. Big incident at turn number 3. Martinez involved in that one there, Cam.
Yeah, Zoran Jonic is the one that has managed to flip his vehicle around, getting a replay right now, courtesy, of course, of Paul Smith in the cameras. Looks like Jorge Martinez, he ended up looping the car of Zoran Jonic into the tire barrier, and once it hit the tire barrier, it started flipping around, and once it goes from there, obviously not a good day. Everyone, though, managing to go around the wreck, even though that car did come to a rest in the middle of the circuit.
Yeah, that was Zoran Jonic then, who was having the massive flipping party down to the inside. Tries the driver Martin van Loozenhoorn as he gets past Manu Domingo to get back up into position number 5 on circuit right now. His next target is Riley Preston for the Orion race team. Now, this is a driver that's quite interesting in the form of Riley Preston here, Jack, because he drives for Orion only in Grand Prix circles. Any other time, he's part of the Evolution racing team. It's one of the most unique deals in sim racing.
It is, because it means that he has the support of Orion in the World Championship Grand Prix Series that we saw yesterday at Silverstone. But also, when it comes to GTs, you have a completely different team, you have a completely different ethos. So driving for two teams is actually very difficult. Obviously, we see Evolution Racing team in the Blancpain GT series. They're very competitive in that. They did quite well at Zolder last time out. So Riley Preston definitely does get his fair share of different cars to drive, but also having that different teams, that could actually adjust the way that he drives and adjust his way to actually the way he is towards the different teams.
Yeah, it certainly can. Just seeing a little bit of contact between Evan Lathoris in the 18 and Carl Winkler of Core Sim Racing in the 14. Lathoris now struggling as Jorge Martinez, who was involved in that lap 1 incident, now trying to have a look into this big chicane. Then on the brakes, right, left, little bit of a difficult apex to deal with because you have that wall right and menacing on the right-hand side of the circuit. Run now down to the hairpin. This is where Kubica had that massive crash about 10 years ago, Cam. And this circuit, it certainly doesn't take any prisoners, especially in the mid-pack of this field. Car turned around.
Yeah, I was going to say, just as you were speaking of that, you managed to jinx Josh Thompson there. Thompson ended up going around. He's managed to loop it perfectly in a 360, get it back on the pavement, and he is off and away. Unfortunately, he will be completely by himself. He's now the final car on the circuit right now and back in position at number 22, of course, with Zoran Jonek now retired. But either way, though, Josh Thompson, not only is he going to be well back, he's going to be out of the DRS range as the cars are throwing themselves into corner number 1, 2, and 3 once again.
Yes, DRS in activation. We are past the 2-lap barrier that's there. Tommy Osgaard in the 3 machine, getting close to the back of Reynaldo Augusto. Has to take a bailout there at the corner of turn number 6 on circuit. And that's going to really compromise his run with Matteo Ugolotti just behind. And he is a driver who's already in 3 laps, up 10 positions in this race today, Jack. He is storming.
That is a brilliant start to make 10 positions in the first 2.5 laps. That is absolutely awesome. Obviously, probably just taking advantage of the incidents we saw on that first lap. So Ugolotti is doing very well up into P9, the Italian, making a name for himself. Maybe going to try and do the Pro Series later on this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him as a contender for the World Championship and Prix Series next year. Maybe, obviously, we have great drivers who do that. That's obviously coming in season 4 as he comes down into that final chicane towards the Wall of Champions. But Ugolotti there just sitting in 9th. Everyone else seems to be very calm at the moment. Ragusa is still leading from Parrington and Farrow. So the top 3 are covered by about 1.2 seconds, probably not even that. And everyone's trying to stay close. Riley Preston just staying in 4th, waiting for anyone to slip up in the top 3.
Certainly is here, and of course the DRS trains here become a bit of an issue. So when you can't get close enough, and when you have the dirty air and all the vortexes working around, you are always going to be trying to struggle to get back onto the path. For Partington, he has lost that position off the start, but he has a long time to really make that happen here right now as the P7 battle continues to go on. Tommy Osgaard still trying to get back at Reynaldo Augusto, then onto the brake, second chicane, not going to happen for him there as the gap just opens up again. And Cam, something that I am talking about here is strategy, because this is only a 2/3 distance race of 46 laps. Track conditions today is 37 degrees on the track. That's not too bad. There might be a case to be made for going for a 1-stop, but of course the no-stop seems to be the ideal call.
More than likely, as the lead battle is kicking off, as well as the battle between Augusto and the car of Tommy Osgaard. So looking at the lead is Giuseppe Ragusa, as he ended up managing to pull away. They probably came very close through the switchback left, right, and that's probably on the exit of that is where Partington lost all that speed. You can actually see Matt J. Farrow in his car, his Blue Flag Racing car. He ended up as starting to snap loose these cars. These cars, I think the noses are getting pretty loose here, which is surprising. I would normally suggest, at least my logic of downforce would be that this is probably more of a moderate to high downforce track, simply because of how fast you have to go into these chicanes. Certainly you're going to lose time on that extraordinarily long back stretch, and of course the front stretch, which literally is the same straight with chicane put into it. But either way, I would still expect these guys to be running a bit more downforce, so perhaps maybe the temperature's not as high as they would expect. As you were saying, it's 74 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's 98 on the track, so that couldn't possibly be it. So it's interesting to see just how snappy these cars still are, even after 5 laps of racing.
Yeah, it certainly is, as Tommy Osgaard did make the move on Reynaldo Augusto on that last lap at the front of the field. You're going to see this train come into play. Riley Preston on the back of this train will be looking to try and make that push here. Position number 9 starting to get a little bit tasty, Jack, which you've seen. Oh my word, Martin van Loozenhoorn getting a huge scare from Manu Domingo though, heading into the final corner. He looked to the inside, he bailed out of it, moved to the outside. A huge wiggle from the driver of van Loozenhoorn. The pair of them are very lucky.
They are. Just looking a bit further down the field, Ronaldo Augusto has made it back up into 8th. Tommy Østergaard actually, or Ronaldo Augusto, sorry, dropped down to 8th. Tommy Østergaard up to 7th. But Matteo Ugolotti got a bit of a tap from Peter Dimov on the last lap, coming into the hairpin at the bottom of the corner. Although it looks like no damage, but that battle was unfortunately just spread apart and nothing's really happened. But Riley Preston just got the fastest lap of the race, a 1:16.4. That is the best lap we have seen so far, 6 laps into this race. Ragusa still continues to lead.
Yes, he does. And Riley Preston, that experience coming into play. One of those drivers with that fabled black stripe on them as part of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. But of course, Riley Preston is one of those drivers who does get very unlucky, especially this season, Cam, in the World Championship Series. He's managed to find himself in 2 or 3 incidents where he has been taken out of the event, and he's probably one of the most unluckiest drivers in the world. Ragusa under a lot of pressure. Partington all over the curb, though, is going to really compromise the run. Matt Farrow now has an opportunity.
Yes, all 3 have their DRS flaps open, of course, minus your leader, Giuseppe Ragusa. I'm pretty sure that Ragusa's running a bit more downforce than the cars in front of him, and it's fairly simple to just say, look at how well his exits are and look at how well his entries are. Look at how he goes into 4 here, and will he be getting a little bit over Partington? Partington's car just looks like it's moving a lot more under suspension load, and so either way, Ragusa, he might be running a little bit more downforce, which means, of course, when they enter that DRS, that flap in the back of the rear wing that does drop down, it will end up giving, of course, much less drag. But even with that, I think maybe they would be able to catch up regardless. So, of course, with that DRS flap, he closes on the chicane very, very quickly. And if you haven't practiced entering the chicane at that speed, I think we're seeing what we've seen the last couple of times he's entered that chicane, which he has had a bear of a time of it. He's getting very close now. You'll see that flap come up, they'll go down the straight, and we'll see exactly what I'm talking about here, where I don't think Partington really is used to entering the chicane at that much speed with this setup.
Yes, and that's something to see Partington then with a lot of overspeed. ERS then you can see saving was the driver Ragusa, defensive to the inside at the wall. Champions, they touch it over the curb. Goes the driver of Partington getting out of it. It was Matt Farrow, and there's a slowdown penalty as well for Partington for going too heavy over the curves. Get yourself bumped down to the back of the freight train, and now he's got all the work to do again, Jack.
He has, and that's unlucky there for, I think it was Farrow, but that incident coming through into the wall of champions, not something you want very early on in the race. That can cause some damage, and just dropping back there in the field, it was Mark Partington. I was watching a bit of a battle back and down in the field. Vincenzo Amico stuck his nose up on the inside, coming through turn 10, got a little bit sideways, and those 2 drivers are going side by side down the back straight, but they seem to have resolved their issue now. But Ragusa still leads from Farrow, and Riley Preston sneaking up into 3rd. Let's see if Michael Partington can get back up to the leaders, but he might drop back into the clutches of Van Loozenhoorn.
Yes, he might drop back into the clutches of Martin van Loozenhoorn. His last lap was a 1:16.9. That was about 0.6 of a second faster than the pack just in front. Will continue on that lead pack because Preston was all over Farrow. Farrow all over the driver of Ragusa, and Ragusa now will try and break away here, try and save some ERS. You'll see that because of the light in the back of the vehicle. That's just to show that he is harvesting some energy to the inside. Tried Farrow, but he wasn't close enough. Better run out of the corner though from Ragusa, as to be expected. Ragusa here, Cam, is being quite heavy-handed on his defending that we've seen. So in terms of the way that drivers have to be a little bit more careful, they've got to be there as they get close again.
Yeah, Farrow, once again, Farrow had a wheel going into corner number 1, and once again, Giuseppe Ragusa just drove like he wasn't there at all. This is the 2nd time now. I'm not saying he's being overly defensive, but for lap 9 out of 46 laps, this is extraordinarily strict, I guess I should say, into who he's allowing to go side by side. I mean, going into that incident through the chicane, Partington had, they were side by side, all 4 tires. I mean, it was Ragusa's left front to Partington's right front, and yet he still drove through the chicane like there wasn't even a car there and pushed him into, of course, the bollards, which might have been doing some under-trade damage, but his front wing managed to come out okay. And I think we'll see here Giuseppe Ragusa, he might be holding up the train here, because I was thinking perhaps this was DRS related, how people were closing in. Just looking about where people are closing in over the course of this lap, it is not surprising to me, and we'll see how Giuseppe defends against this, but I think Giuseppe might not have the speed.
No, not enough at all. He tries to hold it to the outside, but Farrow then up to the race lead as he makes that move very comfortably in the prime overtaking opportunity. A very good job there. That move has been done as Ragusa now jumps back down the train very deep. Tried to go the driver of Partington. He bailed out of that one before there was any opportunity. Looking further down, though, in this field, a big train developing. The likes of Winkler, Lathoris, Dimov were all there together, started to make a little bit of contact between each other, but they're all holding themselves together, Jack, as you've been paying attention to this mid-pack field.
Yeah, I've been watching this mid-pack field for the last couple of laps, and saw Vincenzo Amico just move up into P11 on the last lap. He's made a couple of mistakes, so he nearly did lose it, but he's still holding that. But these guys, I think there are 5 cars covered by 3 seconds, and these cars are not slow. You're going to be doing 200 miles an hour on the stretch from turn 11 right down to the final chicane in the Wall of Champions. So Vincenzo Amico actually just pulling a little bit of a gap to Mark Warmington.
Whoa, car turned around, and that's Ragusa, and he's collected Preston in the incident as well. Giuseppe Ragusa down at the hairpin replay on screen, and that was not a turnaround. In my opinion, he just got too aggressive on the power cam. It's so easy to do in this vehicle to just take the vehicle's power for granted.
Absolutely, of course, no traction control, no launching or anything like that in this vehicle. I'm pretty sure it might have looked like perhaps maybe there had been a little bit of contact, but there really wasn't. And actually, the Orion car was sliding back just a little bit from the rear wheels, so it was actually pulling away from each other. He kicked the throttle, and immediately he realized what was happening, and he immediately lost the rear end and started on the brakes. Preston, he had nowhere to go. He's lost his front wing, and I'm pretty sure he's pulled right in the pits. That is what he has done. He'll get a new nose cone, and hopefully that'll be the only damage on that HPP car, but either way, they're going to look at getting that sorted out and running away, but either way, things are kicking off in the front of the field, Jake.
They certainly are. Riley Preston, the most unlucky man in all of sim racing, has himself another little notch on his belt to claim that. He now drops behind Cane Basol, so that's position number 20 back in the field here, Jack, and trying to get back through this field is going to be a massive challenge. He will have fresh tyres to work with, but what he has to understand is he's got to get himself to the end rather than getting himself involved in too many scraps. It's mid-pack train, the likes of Toffoli, Winkler, Lathoris, still going on in this battle right now here for around P12, 13, 14. Down to the inside tries Lathoris, and the big power move forces that core sim racing car off. Carl Winkler is dropped to the back of the train.
Yeah, that's unlucky for Carl. Toffoli really went for the dive bomb there. That was quite a good lunge from the, I think that was the number, I can't actually read it from here, but it looks like the Lotus colour car. Ivan Thoras there. So he just put it down the inside, probably a bit too ambitious in my opinion, and he has gained a couple of positions out of it. And the core car of Carl Winkler, oh no, it wasn't Carl Winkler, I can't even remember, I'm looking at the wrong thing, but he's dropped to the back of the field now in that core Autosport car. Unlucky for him, he was doing quite well. Matt Farrow still continuing to lead. He's now got a 2.3 second lead over Mark Partington, and Von Losenrod in third. So everyone's sort of being a bit aggressive, I think. People want to get the highest position they can, obviously try and show their things on the broadcast, but Vincenzo Amico has just pulled away from Mark Warmington now. He's got a second lead, and Mark Warmington leaving behind that long train, headed now by Toffoli.
Yes, and we have seen those battles going on. Michael Partington in position number 2 has a lot of work now to get himself back into place. Same can be said for Van Loosnord. Of course, Martin Van Loosnord was formerly an Apex Racing UK driver, formerly a Black Stripe driver, part of the Pro Series, was very, very good in a Williams FW31. Has taken him a little bit of time to get used to this McLaren MP430.
Yeah, I can sympathize completely with that. Of course, now painted on the side of that interestingly liveried Formula One car, the Castron Esports, whichever that means I'm not going to be familiar with, as Mark Partington once again goes purple. But for Martin van Loosenhoorn, he's picked up a little bit of front wing damage, so that will slow him down a little bit. If they come in for a one-stopper, I would probably recommend getting that wing swapped on out. It doesn't seem like it seems to be affecting his lap times too much, but Manu Domingo is slowly reeling that car in. Of course, the positive sim racing car of Domingo. So just trying to reel him in lap after lap, and we'll see what Michael Partington can do, continuing to try and consume and try to catch up to Matt J. Faro.
On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the positions gained plus or lost. So you can see a lot of gains on that top 10 board. The likes of Faro, +3. You got the likes of Van Loosenhoorn, +2 Domingo, +4 for Tommy Osgaard, +12 Ugo Lotti. Someone, Jack, who has managed to just hold his nerve and just managed to avoid all the landmines and the incidents that's happened. It's sometimes not about who's the quickest driver in the field. Sometimes it's about who manages to get the best amount of luck.
Yeah, his car has got no damage on it. He started right at the back of the field in P19 and up to P7, so he is doing extremely well. And on iRacing terms, he is the 4th worst driver in this split, but currently showing that he deserves a lot better than he is credited for. So he has Peter Dimov behind him, who has in turn gained 9 positions after starting right at the back of this field. But Ugo Lotti doing very well as we just look a bit further back in the field. Even Lothoras looking to get another position off Toffoli for P12. So Toffoli, Lothoras and Galen Dimov, obviously the brother of Peter Dimov, running in 12, 13 and 14, all very close to each other, fighting out for that P12. And Vincenzo Amico and Mark Wilmington leaving these guys behind after being in that field for the start of this race.
Yes, they are here. They are starting to go away. So Kleber to Foley, part of the positive sim racing setup. We'll have to worry about Evan Lothoras in the next few moments here of this event. In the first 14 laps, these guys have dropped about 21, 22 seconds to your race leader. That's how much that they've been fighting and trying to scrap it out through this field. They run down towards the hairpin here. Nothing going to be going on for any of those drivers at the moment. Peter Dimov, though, closing up to Ugo Lotti here, trying to really narrow that gap back down. And the answer is no, isn't going to be close enough. But keep your attention to the front of the field, because Partington took away another half a second away from Faro. So that gap comes down to 1.2. And at the end of this lap, you must feel here, Cam, that Partington may have DRS.
He's certainly working towards it. I mean, 5/10 every single lap, last couple of laps now, as Matt J. Faro. Perhaps being in clean air is not exactly what he needed, as, of course, that Blue Flag Racing car doing an extraordinary job still leading this race. But, and this is a pretty big but, though, when you lose those cars that you're chasing, you no longer have that blood in the water. You're starting to look out of your mirror. He loses a little bit of the rear, skips through out of the chicanes at 8 and 9, and here he comes towards the hairpin here. And I think that this hairpin is starting to become more important than I had previously thought. I figured these cars were going to have an easy enough time getting under throttle, but it looks to me like Partington just has these hairpins nailed.
Yeah, Peter Dimov is round.
Yeah, Peter Dimov then has managed to find himself in a bit of a spin. We've managed to catch that one on the cameras. Coming into the game, and Warmington now starts to run into issues as well. So Dimov just getting a little bit too aggressive, trying to get himself going through. We'll keep an eye out on Warmington, who spins at exactly the same place with exactly the same moment. That is spinning with, I'd say, coming off of the throttle there. So that, you have to say, is a complete lack of grip because of the downforce levels that you see here, Jack.
I would disagree with you. I think he engaged his pit limiter, because I can see his red light flashing on the back of his car coming into the braking zone for that chicane.
And
he just got onto the curb coming through the chicane. That spun him round.
Yeah, it certainly did. We just saw Calistani having a big moment. Gets 45 degrees Tokyo drift, Cam. He holds on to it out of the final corner, avoids the wall of champions, which means that we all know that he might not be a champion just yet.
No, not yet at all, but just a quick look up front, though, as everything seems to be kicking off in all the different parts of the track. Martin van Loosenhoorn seems to be leading this gap, but there is a move from Domingo and Ragusa. Ragusa is trying to recover from what that incident had left him with, but he's going to have to get around that positive sim racing car and Tommy Osgaard, as here he comes. And Ragusa, he's really just, he's driving as if, like, perhaps that car was not there. He'll give him just a lane. That is exactly to the letter of the law. What you can give him is a lane, and there we go. Domingo will have to slot in back. Of course, no DRS was engaged that time by.
Oh, that's Van Loosenhoorn.
Yeah, Van Loosenhoort, well, did we find our first person that claimed the Wall of Champions? Yes, we did.
We did there, just gets all over the curb coming in, replay on screen, and well, Martin Van Loosenhoort, he's going to become a champion someday. That much I can guarantee you from what I've just seen. So Van Loosenhoort drops himself to the back of the field. The advantage there for Van Loosenhoort's instant, Jack, he hits side on, which means that the damage is going to be a lot more negated than it was if it was a head-on crash.
He already had front wing damage coming into that corner, so I wonder whether he was struggling for grip. Just missed that second apex, went straight into the Wall of Champions. So the damage won't be as heavy as if he'd have gone in nose first, which of course would have probably ripped off his front wing. But we're going to go back down to P13, back towards Gavin Dimov and Peter Dimov there. So the two brothers going to start fighting out together. Gavin Dimov just trying to get back some positions that he lost, but Trafoli, Martinez has got past Trafoli for P13 as well. I wonder where that happened. Must have happened a bit earlier on in the lap. So these two were side by side coming into the 3-4 chicane, and Martinez just managed to get up the inside of Trafoli. A good move, or around the outside even. A good move.
Yep, leads change. Michael Partington then gets the lead going down the inside, and that was a very comfortable move there, Cam, that we see here on replay. He just got so much overspeed there because of the fact that Farrow was going to be saving, and there wasn't really too much resistance there in terms of the racing for Farrow. Farrow just decided that staying behind was the good idea.
Yeah, it was a fairly straightforward pass. I think perhaps Fowler realizes, okay, maybe I don't have that pace. Maybe Partington has just gotten that pace. Maybe I'm just happy to be there. I don't know. But either way, though, still second place with a 9-second gap. I'll take that any day of the week. But either, just throwing it on back now to really these trains that we have. We've got two large trains as it stands. We've got everyone from the car number 3 on back. That's Tommy Oscard, so that's Oscar Ragusa, Domingo, Loosenhoort, which I'm surprised that Loosenhoort's suspension held up. And then you've got, well back, down in 14. There's been an incident. Josh Thompson and Carl Winkler has ended up finding each other after corner number 4.
Yes, and that's Josh Thompson then, who had that first moment, spun the car around, and well, for that driver of Winkler, he tried to thread the needle, and well, they got a little bit tangled up, and for Josh Thompson, that's going to be end of day for him there. Winkler will manage to continue on his merry way. To Foley then has also had himself an instant coming out of turn number 6-7 there, Jack, and that was a case of getting on the power, turns the car around, tries to get himself turned around, but has to wait a long time because of the blind nature of the exit of the corner.
Yeah, these cars have got lots of power. That corner is very hard as well because you have to be on the power whilst turning. So you have to balance the car, balance the downforce along with the power, just maybe a little bit too much. Lucky no one collected him, but no one was really behind him. He was running on his own. So he's dropped down the order a bit as we saw two cars side by side as we go past. But Mark Warmington, what's going on here? I can't... Mark Warmington. Oh, Riley Preston and Mark Warmington together on circuit.
Yes, they are here, and Riley Preston has managed to get his way past Mark Warmington there, down towards turn number 1. In fact, before that, in towards the final corner. And again, it's that overspeed. DRS and ERS, you can really work up over 300 kilometers an hour here today, Cam, to really make these moves happen. That's what we're seeing, what's happening right now. And when you are seeing these moves, we are seeing Riley Preston now trying to get himself back through the field, back up now to position number 15 out on circuit.
Yeah, and it just throughout this whole race, this second pack was really all thrown up together, and they were pretty much all one and the same, following each other, DRS every single lap. They seem to have really been split by that incident between Thompson and the other car there, the Core Sim Racing car, Carl. But either way, though, they're still following each other, but I'm noticing a lot less DRS, and that is going to be very important because this pack now, it's starting to turn into perhaps a pack of who can actually run the laps cleanly and who can actually run your speeds. The closest I think I see right now is P10, and that's Evan Lathoris, Peter Dimov, and Galvin Dimov. But either way, though, we are starting to separate, and that is almost, I'd say, a good thing, Jake. We've had quite a couple of incidents in this one.
Yes, it has been a very eventful race then in the early goings. Giuseppe Ragusa versus Tommy Osgaard, though. This is the battle for the final spots on the podium. Domingo is getting dropped then by this train at a rate of about 0.6 of a second a lap here, Jack. And for Giuseppe Ragusa, we have seen him have that one spin, try and get himself back going again. Tommy Osgaard is now going to have to play the role of sitting duck. It is quite interesting, though, on the front of his vehicle, on the front nose, it says Ducky there on the front of his nose. So it seems that sitting duck might be a little bit in his nature.
Yeah, maybe, and obviously Ragusa, the Thrustmaster Movano driver there, sitting in P4, doing a sterling job to come back from the spin, just 10.7 seconds down on Partington in the lead. But he's trying to get back into third. Tommy Osgaard is up 6 positions, so he is quite a high gainer in this race, and Ragusa, after starting pole, is down 3, so Ragusa will be wanting to regain what he's lost. He's got a little bit of front wing damage as well, so that could be affecting the straight line speed. We have seen him use the DRS on the last few laps, but cannot get anywhere close to Osgaard. He just has a little moment coming through 11, a little bit sideways. That's going to affect his straight line speed. Let's see if Ragusa can take advantage of that, but I don't think he can. Even that was on the last lap, so I'm going back live and watching a replay, so Ragusa's still sitting in 4th and Osgaard's in 3rd.
Traffic becoming an issue then for the leaders in this event as Diego Jimenez Hormilia manages to just negotiate going out of the way. Despite this, we've only had 2 retirements so far in this event. Zoran Jonjic and Josh Thompson as well are both drivers that have lost themselves out of the event. But Matt Farrow has completely lost contact to the back of Partington. Partington is now effectively clear here, Cam, as he looks to break away towards the second half of this event.
Yeah, as they're heading into corners 1 and 2 once again. That's why I think that Farrow wasn't, I don't want to necessarily say he wasn't racing Partington. Obviously, they're racing. They're up front at the height of what could be considered road racing here on the iRacing service. But when you realize that somebody's faster than you and faster every single lap, I mean, that was 0.7 that last lap. Both cars were clean. They had a little bit of lap traffic that time, so maybe the lap times were a little screwed. But overall, when you realize somebody's doing, almost a second a lap faster than you, it's not that you're going slow, because trust me, he's going fast. I mean, Farrow is going very, very quickly. You just realize that there's really nothing to gain by trying to defend it that difficultly. I mean, you can cause an incident, you can cause anything to happen, and really throw away your race. I mean, he qualified in 4th, Matt did. He's in 2nd right now. He's got an 11.5 second lead. That's massive. I'd say just stick with it.
Just stick with it seems to be the plan for Ragusa, though. He does need to try and find the back of Tommy Osgaard here. A bit of a wiggle coming off the exit for Ducky there as he tries to get himself going through. But for Ragusa, Jackie, it is going to be a case here of how does he try and get himself into that half a second window. You can use all your ERS if you want, but you know that you have to charge that up lap after lap. So in terms of what Giuseppe Ragusa needs to do, how does he try and stay onto the back of Tommy Osgaard through a very difficult and very tight and twisty opening section of the lap?
That's obviously for Ragusa to find out. Obviously, you want to be taking as much speed as you can, getting as much or as late on the brakes as you can. Also mean you can brake a little bit harder, gain back a little bit of energy recovery. So obviously these cars with the ERS systems, when you brake, it recovers the energy. And it's the same in the LMP1 cars we see in the FIA WEC. So it's the same kind of system, and then it's obviously deployed through the motors when you hit the throttle. It's obviously deployed automatically as well. But Ragusa trying to use all the might he can, all the DRS and ERS he can to try and get back onto the back of Osgaard. But Osgaard smoothing away slightly, I think. He's pulling out a bit of a gap now, about 0.6 of a second. He's still getting a little bit sideways. Then rear tyre's probably going to be going off. I would be very surprised if we don't see him in the pit lane soon as we come up to the halfway point.
Battle of the Dimmovs, Peter versus Gallin, and it was a poor corner there for Peter Dimov, allows Gallin to get right up onto the rear. Right then left will follow here of this second chicane out on circuit, and again the dirty air becomes a factor, and Gallin Dimov drops back a little bit. But you have to say here, Cam, he is in range as they look to hit the hairpin and now try and maximize that run coming off of the corner. They are close together, but close is one thing. Getting past is going to be certainly another idea entirely.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, DRS is open, but which is good enough for maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 mile an hour, but there's nothing you're going to do unless you're going to try to pass on the... there's only so many things you can do when you have the overspeed. You can go onto the left entering the chicane, which we saw that did not work out for Michael Partington. when he was trying to pass Giuseppe Ragusa. You can go to the right, which is how Matt Farrow got past Giuseppe Ragusa, but you go onto the right. Now, if they turn into you, now you're going to have rim damage, and you won't have any access to the pits in case you need to get something fixed. So it's very difficult, especially in these cars, unless you make a full, clean pass and then slot in front, or perhaps slot in the middle so they can't counter either way, left and right. You're going to have it as a massive wiggle for Galen Dimov, as he just slides just a hair back, almost collects that outside wall, which is something I was very frequently doing here at this circuit. I spent most of my time freaking out about the Wall of Champions and the hairpin, where I would always seem to find myself crashing at that hairpin in particular, but the Dimovs now separating.
Battle between Evan Lathoris then and Vincenzo Amico as well here. Battle for P9 out on circuit. The 5 of Amico, formerly a black stripe driver as well here, Jack, and under a lot of pressure now as Lathoris makes it very comfortable down to the inside and takes that position very, very easily. So Evan Lathoris now up into that position number 9 out on circuit. And for Lathoris, it's a case of now just trying to run the laps that he knows he can. He has dropped in this last lap, though, another 0.8 of a second to Reynaldo Augusto and the likes of Ugolotti as well. He's got to get it back to him because there's 1.8 seconds of a gap.
Yeah, Lathoris made that move look easy, straight up the inside down the straight of Vincenzo Amico. Vincenzo Amico is a pro driver, Jake. He drives for Shimnu Massimi Sim Racing, so he has experience in iRacing, but he's usually seen in GT cars, not a familiar face in open wheelers. So it's interesting to see actually how well he's doing. He's having a great race at the moment, sitting in P10 with Evan Lathoris into P9.
Yeah, certainly is. Riley Preston, fastest lap, 1:15.828, about to approach Galen Dimov at the pace of 2.5 seconds a lap that we are seeing. So next lap, he might be looking to try and make that big move here in this event. And the new wing certainly does seem to be working, as Amico has spun the vehicle down at the hairpin, and that is going to be really costly for his race as he drops himself now behind the driver of Riley Preston, Cam. I
was going to say, if he started pulling forward, Riley Preston would have needed a new wing. But either way, though, Vincenzo Amico did exactly what you need to do. Open up that playbook, because that's what you need to do when you spin it and you see people oncoming. You hold the brakes, and Riley Preston, he's gotten up now to what will be the 12th position. Or which actually, yeah, it's for the 12th position, as here comes Amico into the pit lane, as we have one car into the wall.
Yeah, that's Reynaldo Augusto then, who has got himself into the wall, and that is a very weird place for someone to go into the wall. Coming out of 2, it seems to me that's technical, because it seems that the steering must have locked straight there, Jack, as he went straight into the wall at turn number 2. Game over for Reynaldo Augusto from position number 8.
I wonder whether he had a failure with hardware, because that's very peculiar indeed. He doesn't look like he's made much of a mistake. It's very straight lined at the moment, coming out of 2, coming on the run down into the chicane. Yeah, it looks like he had a hardware failure, because his steering went straight automatically. So unlucky Augusto for that, or unlucky for Augusto there, out of the race, which promotes everyone behind him up into P number 8, including Evan Lathoris, on the move at the moment, who is up 4 positions from where he started.
Giuseppe Ragusa then still looking to try and get the move on Oscar down to the inside at turn number 2. Going to take the position for position number 3. Maybe he's going to try and hold it on the outsides, Oscar, but he gets hung out to dry like yesterday's washing, and he has no opportunity to hold that one away. Cam, that is a textbook maneuver at turn 2.
Yeah, and it's just as straightforward. You get to the inside, you start wriggling and throwing your weight, which Giuseppe Ragusa has been doing pretty much all race long. He sorts himself out as we look back now to, once again, that position number, well, it's actually 10 and 11 between Galvin Dimov and Riley Preston. Preston, he is coming like a freight train here. His last lap was a 1:16.6. Your leader's a 1:16.5, so he is running extraordinary speed right now. And Riley Preston, of course, there's a number 1 car, there's the number 1 on his car for a reason. Means he's the highest I-rated driver here in this race, and he is going to try to find his way around both Dimovs fairly soon.
Yes, but the issue he's got is that the driver in front of him, Alan Dimov, will get the DRS from Peter Dimov, so if anything is going to happen, he's going to have to rely on Peter Dimov losing that position and falling back down the train here today. And it is worth noting the only drive to break into that 1 minute 15 barrier is that #1 driver of Riley Preston driving for the Orion race team. Here comes Galen Dimov to the outside of his teammate. They touch on the way down into the chicane. They get so lucky that it ends the way it does. There's damage though to the driver of Peter Dimov. Preston does so well to get his way around, Jack.
He does. That's a very good manoeuvring by Riley Preston. Obviously, Riley Preston, one of the best. He drives in the iRacing Grand Prix World Championship Series. So he knows his way around iRacing, knows his way around the cars. But the Dimovs, just looking like they had a bit of... One of the Dimovs obviously got round Preston. Oh, that was very close. Very lucky to avoid that. So he's up now into P number 10. Only 7 positions down on where he started. Next target for him will be Galen Dimov, who is only around 1.2 seconds ahead of him.
Yes, but of course that gap can be closed down quickly if your name just so happens to be Riley Preston here in this event. Tommy Osgard seemed to lose the back here in this event now, Cam, of that driver Giuseppe Ragusa. Ragusa has checked out of the hotel and decided that he wants to go on a nice little drive around the circuit of Montreal, because he's now got himself about a second's worth of a gap here, maybe a little bit more here in the situation. The answer is going to be 1.1 seconds on circuit. That's enough to break DRS. Worth talking about the front of the field as well. Matt Farrow has kept the gap at about 1.7.
Yeah, I mean, in Giuseppe Ragusa, I mean, yeah, sure, you're checking out a hotel, you're driving around Montreal. Montreal's not the greatest place to drive in. It's very tight, there's a lot of walls around there, you don't really get to see what you're coming in on. Occasionally, you have to go very quickly left and right, and at the end of the day, you just find yourself going around in a big old circle. But either way, he seems to be enjoying it either way. Especially with that damaged wing, he is doing a heck of a job running extraordinarily fast laps on that one. But just throughout this race, though, we've already seen quite a lot of drama, Jake, and I have a feeling we're almost just about halfway, and it's only getting started from here.
Yeah, it is only just getting started right now. Riley Preston still trying to apply that pressure here in the battle for position number 9 with Galen Dimov. Isn't close enough to really make this one happen just yet. Needs a good couple of corners or maybe a couple of mistakes out of Galen Dimov. Dimov, though, in terms of his racing here today, he's actually gone and run this fastest lap of the race, a 1:16.5 the last time by. That's the amount of pressure that is being heaped upon Dimov. Not the best of runs, though. Takes the wider exit, very similar to the likes of Gregor Hutu in the way that he would have driven the Montreal circuit. But here comes Riley Preston with an insane amount of overspeed. Will have to make the move late. To the inside he will go, and he'll try and squeeze the man out. He will squeeze the man out, Jack. Very good move.
That was an awesome move by Riley Preston. Just use his speed, hitting 340 kilometers an hour coming down that straight, coming down into that final chicane. Lucky that Galen Dimov didn't turn into him there, because Galen Dimov had a late turn in for the chicane. He missed his turn in. You could see him wanting to turn in, but he just couldn't because there was a car on his inside. Riley Preston already storming away from that car and has got about a 1.4 second lead over him already.
Yeah, he certainly has. That's a very good move that has been done. And of course, with the battles that continues, you never want to miss a moment here on RaceSpotTV. The final 15 coming to you in just a moment's time. We're going to take you RaceSpotTV at break time.
When I sat in the car, you always wonder, what's it going to feel like? You know, it was my first time driving a mid-engine GT car. You know, my thoughts were, wow, this is really good for our first time in a car. I was really surprised by it. You're sitting low, you got the A-pillars at steep angles, the windshield's at steep angles, you can see the fender flares. I think we have a chance to win. Everything's got to go right, but I think we have a car that can win the race or be on the podium. But can you imagine how cool that would be to go back 50 years later to the year and do it?
Riley Preston just making an easy job of Evan Lathoris as he moves his way up into position number 8 on his recovery tour. He's now just down -5 for the event today. Tommy Osgaard comes down onto pit road here as we've just seen an incident whilst the cameras were away. Unfortunately, we won't be able to show it to you, but he didn't hit the wall of champions, he hit the pit wall of champions. So that was the big issue that Tommy Osgaard had in terms of his race. He will drop himself down a multitude of positions here in the Grand Prix series, as well as himself going through. He is out of the vehicle and done. I am #DoYouMind Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Mr. Jack Styles and Mr. Cameron Walsh. Cam, we have seen a few incidents in the last few moments. Matt Farrow's also had a spin. He's dropped himself down 10 seconds in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, he still has about a 6-second gap between himself and Giuseppe Ragusa. He's just got to stay focused on it. 15 laps now. These tires, they're probably getting towards the end of their life, but just as we had presumed, there weren't going to be people trying to make a two-stopper, which I understand. This is quite a lengthy pit lane, and it does take quite a while to drive that lane. Plus, your merging is pretty difficult on its own. But either way, Matt J. Farrow, he is now only got maybe 5 seconds with him and Giuseppe Ragusa, but the lap times, very similar.
Yeah, lap times are very similar. Jorge Marquez versus Matteo Calistani, the battle for position number 12 out on circuit here. The difference in lap times has been very, very minimal here, Jack, between the pair of them. But Calistani, a driver we normally are used to seeing in the midfield right now, seemingly trying to keep himself going. The 7, though, has a little bit of damage. Whether it's cosmetic or not is another story.
Yeah, the 7 has damage. Marquez has sustained steering damage. His steering is slightly off, and we've seen that coming down the straights compared to Calistani, who has no damage. So Marquez on that last lap was 2/10 slower. He probably wants to get that position, make it up into P11, a little gain of iRacing. I'm not really sure how many points he will get for that. So let's see if he can make a move. But at the moment, Calistani running some brilliant laps, running in P11 at the moment. Probably would like to be a little bit higher. I think everyone who is sort of below about P10 would love to be a bit higher, but at the moment, that's probably the closest battle we have on circuit at the moment between Marquez and Calistani. Marquez probably getting a little bit close now into about his 6/10 back from Calistani. So if he got DRS, which he will do this time on the straights, he could make a move up the inside coming into the wall of champ or the last chicane or turn 1.
Yeah, certainly could do here. Could the driver of Jorge Marquez, if he can get that good enough run, isn't able to at the moment. But of course, Peter Dimov is running a little bit slowly across the circuit here, only running 1:18.6s. That's certainly not the best of his ability. So Peter Dimov now will become the latest target for Calistani. Want to keep an eye out, though, on Riley Preston in the 1 machine, because he is closing down Matteo Ugolotti here, Cam, at a rate of 1.4 seconds a lap. The gap is just 2.4.
Yeah, Ugolotti seems to be having a bit of troubles through the slower turns, while he does have good top-end speed. I think for Riley Preston, I actually think, just as I was about to think it, I think he actually lost the rears a little bit, but he did end up catching it once again. The car seems to be twitching quite heavily, but you know what? Perhaps that's where Preston is finding that speed. He has left Evan Lathoris in the dirt. He was just going to be closing in on. He's not going to be close enough for DRS. But either way, perhaps Riley Preston is going to be able to close in next lap on Ugolotti. But either way, though, everyone's still circulating fairly straightforward right now. And the only battles I see are really between Peter Dimov, Matteo Salasti, and Jorge Marquez.
Yes, they are, and of course the issue for Calistani there, he took all out of the corner, just completely compromised his exit, now has allowed Marquez an opportunity to try and close in, but there's DRS available for that driver of Matteo Calistani. It means that he is just unable to really close that gap down in. Of course, our camera is provided to you by our camera is provided to you by Esteban Balog, our official camera packs for gourmets here as Calistani looks to go through here, and of course our official graphics partner is Designs. Make sure that you check him out and all the work that he's been doing as well. Marquez unable to make that move there, Jack, as he tried to get himself through. He tried everything, but everything didn't work.
No, it didn't. Going to the outside through turn 2 probably isn't the optimal line. He's right back up to the back of Matteo Calistani now. He was on the back of Peter Dimov, so we've got a 3-way fight for P10. Peter Dimov, the slowest out of the 3 drivers, and Calistani and Marquez will want to be clearing him as soon as possible, as we just see Calistani looking to make a move as they come into the 8-9 chicane, but not quite making it happen. Maybe he'll do it down to 10. Maybe he'll use the DRS that he's going to get back down the straight towards 13-14.
Yeah, that might be the best case scenario for him right now. Dimov takes a pretty wide line to try and open out the exit on the corner, and he opens out the exit well. A little bit of a wiggle from Kalistani as he tried to get himself into play. Didn't quite work out for him, though. But for the driver of Riley Preston, he gets himself through down into turn number 1. Comfortable move on Ugolotti. He made that one happen really, really well. Now position number 6 for the number 1 machine. Done very, very easily. But behind that, though, in towards turn number 1, Dimov still holds that advantage. Kalistani looks to the inside, but Cam wasn't close enough to make something happen.
Well, he threw to the inside when there wasn't an attack to be made, so he scrubbed that speed, widened the exit that he is going to need to take in order to take corner number 2, and that's why you can see Dimov taking a much more relaxed trip through corners number 3, 4, and 5, now heading to 6 and 7 and build up that gap. That's how this circuit goes. If you don't really throw the car properly through 1 and 2, you start to you really slow yourself down until about this sector right here when you start to catch on back up, which we're seeing, of course, that lime green Positive Sim Racing Formula car is closing in nicely. He gets through the chicane fairly cleanly right now with Marquinez just holding on to the rear of him. But either way, Peter Dimov, well, this is where you start looking into your mirrors. See how wide of an entry Dimov takes. Now he gets on the throttle up through the gears. Now this time, actually, Salasani is able to have a very good run of it. His DRS flap is not open, though, and there it goes. Now it's open, and we'll see here. He'll go to the inside here, and he'll try to make that pass. Will he close the door? He will not. He'll leave it open. He could have closed that easily, but on the way, he's going to take that position. Good racing from each other, and here comes Jorge Marquinez on the inside.
Marquinez then trying to take advantage of the door that was widely opened by Kalistani. He gets down to the inside. He's got to hold the advantage, though, and he gets more than a car's nose width to get himself back into position. He now needs to chase down Kalistani even further. He jumps up into position number 11 out on circuit here. I do want to talk about Preston again because I don't believe he's going to be done before the end of this event here, Jack, because he's got himself 9 laps to go before the end of this event. He's about 4.5 seconds back of Martin van Loosenhoorn, and he's running about a second a lap quicker than the man.
He is, and he's only about 10 seconds back from Manu Domingo as well. I think he might stretch to get that 4th place of Domingo, but he will probably catch Martin van Loosenhoorn and most likely get past him. Van Loosenhoorn, obviously, big damage on the front of that car from where I think he ran into the wall of champions earlier on in this race. So as he crosses the line with 9 laps to go, Riley Preston just 3.5 seconds back for him. Riley Preston running a lap time he's just done a 1:15.8, so he's about 2 seconds faster than Martin van Loosenhoorn on that last lap. So a storming lap from Riley Preston on the men's after that pit stop to try and gain back time. Had he not been in the pit stop, I think we could see him in the lead by now.
We're starting to get a little bit of a train forming behind Matej Kalistani. You got Marquinez there, Dimov, Warmington, Winkler, Basol and Toffoli with Vincenzo Amico at the back of it. And what they all have to be worried about is that man at the front of the field, Michael Partington, if he becomes into play to start lapping, because that will mean that they'll have to do 1 less lap in this event camp. Right now, all these battles going on within good range of each other. Warmington versus Winkler is probably the closest one that we're seeing right now. Carl Winkler, a name that doesn't normally crop up with Core Sim Racing, but there's a car span in front. Yep, that's Dimov, who'd been struggling ever since he had that big moment with his brother.
Yeah, and he does manage to wait. He'll wait. That's exactly what you want to see. We'll get a replay of it, actually, here, as he just loses the rear on its own. I think he might have actually taken a little bit too much curb, which slowed his left front down just enough to spin the right rears around. But either way, he's trying to work his way there. He didn't think he's running out of tires. He's cutting right now through the chicane. Perhaps he's overheated them. And here comes Michael Partington. He'll have to go around Peter Dimov. But just as you were saying that, looking up forward, as Telber Toffoli now is defending against Vincenzo Amico, I have to say here, now that you mentioned that, Jake, with Partington, it is going to be, I think there's enough laps. There's just under 10 laps to go. He's got the speed right now. Will he close in on everybody here? He will have to try to fight his way through as Toffoli, he goes through. the graded covering parts, so he'll have to give time back. But if he has to start working his way through this train's going to get even tighter, and it's going to become even more harder to pass each other with that leader working his way around.
Yeah, it certainly will, as Clover Toffoli had to worry about Vincenzo Amico going down the inside of him there in terms of that battle going on. We are keeping an eye, though, of course, on Riley Preston, and he's really closed up in this last lap. You can now certainly see the light flashing in front of him from the driver of Martin van Loosenhoorn, who is trying everything just to hold on to position number 5. Of course, the driver that did leave Apex Racing UK during this last season, a bit very close to the Wall of Champions. The pair of them really trying to work for it here in terms of this event. And the one machine now trying everything. 116.4 meets 118.1. Running wide at turn 10 is the word we're hearing, Jack.
Yeah, he just ran a little bit wide there for Van Loosenhoorn, running obviously probably a bit too much speed. That front downforce damage affecting him just far too late on the brakes. So that's affected the gap. The gap now down to 1 second. Riley Preston, maybe we could see a chance for an overtake on this lap because of how much faster he is. He was a second and a half quicker on that last lap, 1.6 seconds quicker. So we know he's got pace, but it's the catching is one thing, passing is another, Jay.
Oh, we're getting the Murrayisms out. How wonderful here in the final stages of this event. Martin van Loosenhoorn trying to make this happen here as we focus on the Preston van Loosenhoorn battle here. Onto the hairpin they go, and it seems that Preston needs to find a really good run. Hasn't had it, and he's been struggling. He's taken about 2 laps to try and make things happen for him, but compared to him and Manu Domingo, I doubt he's going to catch him before the end of the race. Look at the overspeed from Riley Preston. He goes hard to the inside and takes the position away. Cam, textbook maneuver, and Riley Preston's not done. Van Loosenhoorn's going to come back at him.
Yeah, that was a good night as far as the speed goes. Van Loosenhoorn, he would still be on the rear if it wasn't for the DRS on the front stretch. But my goodness, that was a very quick run through. And here comes Loosenhoorn. He's got a tire in, but it will not be sufficient enough to hold the 2 wide going towards corner number 3. They'll roll their way through 3 and 4, and then I'm pretty sure that wing damage from Van Loosenhoorn will end up being the slayer of him. And it almost looks to me like Preston perhaps has picked up some front wing damage, perhaps going over a curb of some sort. That might just be my eyes deceiving me. I'm not sure, but if he did manage to damage his front wing going over some of those curbs and running through this track, that obviously is not going to be the good thing. So yeah, it looks to me like perhaps he took a little bit too much curb somewhere.
Yes, he maybe has, and that is going to be detrimental to the cause of him trying to fight and scrap his way through. I doubt he's going to catch Domingo before now and the end of the race. But to Calistani and Martinez, then this battle for position number 10, the last of the top 10 spots. Traffic in front, of course, of Diego Jimenez Hormilia there, just trying to get around him, and does so very, very comfortably. Martinez doesn't have long to make this. 5 laps to go when he next crosses the line, Jack. And well, for Martinez, he's been stuck all day long behind Calistani, waiting for that move to get himself back through. Calistani himself is plus 13 for the day. He's your biggest mover and shaker as things stands.
He is, and if Martinez gets past, obviously he'll be knocked down to plus 12. Equaling Matteo Ugolotti there in P number 7, but Calistani holding Martinez off. I think Martinez has got damage which is affecting his straight line speed, and also because he has steering damage, that will mean it's affecting his cornering, so his cornering will not be as optimal as he would want it to be as we cross the line with 5 laps to go. But Martinez still wants that P10, wants that final points position, but I think Calistani will hold him off. I don't think Martinez has got the pace to be able to get past him, because Calistani was 2/10 faster on that last lap.
And look at this 4-car train now behind that Cam, because Caner Basol and Vincenzo Amico have joined the party of Winkler and Warmington here. And for Warmington, he now knows that the pressure is being heaped upon him like a carvery right now, as he knows that Winkler wants to make the move. To the inside he looked, but he knows that he's just trying to force the hand. The game of chess happening in the final 5.
Absolutely, looking left, right through these corners. There's just nothing in it for Warmington. Pretty sure at this point he might be the one with a higher downforce in this train, but we'll see. Of course, the DRS rules all down the straights from corner number 11 to 13 and 14. But here they go through the hairpin corner, and we will see what Warmington is able to do as far as exit. He gets actually an extraordinary exit. He launches out of it, but I still think Winkler is going to start catching it, and Basil and Amico are now going to go side by side, and they're both on the DRS.
Yes, they are. They're both trying to use as much as they can. Amico to the outside, trying to get that position. He goes through the smallest gap possible and takes it away. They hold each other up, though, and drop themselves completely off the back of the train. That's not how you make a move. You've got to do it as cleanly as possible to lose as little time as possible. The trainer 4 becomes the trainer 2, and for Warmington, he will be very, very happy at the way that was done for him. For the time being, though, at the front of the field, Jack, you have to say it's been a clinic with 3 laps to go for Michael Partington. 14.4 seconds the gap. He has not been challenged for the second half of this event.
He hasn't. He has dominated this race. It's been a great drive there from Michael Partington in that number 10 car. He'll be more than happy with that win. Obviously, we still have 2.5 laps to go. Long way to go yet. So he could all throw it away. You never know. But I'd hope not. Michael Partington's done a brilliant job so far today, and I would like to see him come home with the win. Matt Farrow as well in second, and Ragusa in third. They have done a storming job to hold their positions, but Manu Domingo just holding off of Riley Preston. I think he has to be our hard charger coming back from the back. And yeah, he does have wing damage on the front of that car, which should be slowing him down.
Amico is absolutely flying, and from being about 2 seconds back at the start of the lap, making that move, he's now got himself right back again onto the rear of Winkler here in this battle going on for positions 12, 13, 14 out on circuit. Amico now onto the back of the train. Can't afford to get frustrated here, Cam, in the final moments of this one, because he knows with 3 laps to go that he's only got to get past 2 positions, and there's traffic ahead in the form of Jimenez Hormilla.
Yeah, and it's really difficult to try to figure out exactly how you're going to sort their way through it. Looking back right now, Warmington still on the fight with Amico and Winkler. Amico just worked his way through corners 2 and 3 on Winkler, so Winkler, he's actually dropped down now. So now it is Amico. It is Amico. These last couple of laps, who has been absolutely throwing it through these corners here. And actually, here comes Amico trying to get 2 cars in just a couple of corners. But either way, will he be able to do it? As they go almost rim to rim, Warmington will try to cover it, but either way, though, cars now, this whole 4-car train is really kicking off as they're now back to 4. Winkler now is trying to counter onto Amico. Amico is now trying to counter onto Warmington. They're going to go 3 wide into the hairpin corner as Winkler washes out, but either way, though, Warmington, he will start losing the position. Actually, here comes Winkler on the outside as they work their way towards the backstretch.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant to see, and now Basol will try and get the triple DRS draft out of everyone right now. Amico gets himself a little bit careful. Winkler makes the move. Basol down to the inside, takes that position away, and does a very, very good job of making that move happen in front of that. Marquez still stuck, trying to get around that driver of Matteo Calistani here. Jack,
he's round.
He is round there, and that's a big spin for Jorge Marquez, and that's game over in terms of his battle to try and get the top 10.
Yeah, he just got a bit too early on the power there. It's unfortunate for Marquez. We saw him side by side a couple of laps ago coming through turn 1 with the car ahead of him, so he's just into the wall, sustained a bit more front end damage, but he only has another lap to complete, so that's unfortunate there for Marquez. He's going to probably hold P11 unless Vincenzo Amico can catch him, which the way he's going might be possible.
White flag is out, then this will be the final lap of this event. Michael Partington holds the advantage by about 15 seconds over Matt Farrow. It was a good challenge from Matt Farrow, who had the lead in the early goings after the incident from Giuseppe Ragusa, but in the end, one spin and just not enough pace has meant that he has dropped back in this event. Look at the train that is being caught by Michael Partington, Toffoli, Warmington, Basol, Winkler and Amico, and there is lap traffic in Hormilla to deal with as well. They won't be battling them until the end of this event, but for Michael Partington, who now runs himself towards the final chicane for the final time, he will be the first driver to take a victory in this season and on RaceSpotTV broadcasting as well. Michael Partington wins at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in a very dominating fashion in this event. The battle for P6, though, will continue here as Matteo Ugolotti will try and make that move down to the inside. A little bit too aggressive there, coming down in. Needs a great run out of the corner, Cam. Just doesn't manage to get it, I don't think, but he's got a chance.
He's got DRS. Will it kick on? Yes, it will. Front wing damage from Martin van Loozenhoort has been plaguing him all day long, and look at that! Like there's a different classification of cars. And here comes Ugolotti, but did he go in too fast? Will he get the Wall of Champions? No, he will not. So just like that,
he spun.
And Loozenhoort, he's decided, well, perhaps I didn't want to come in 7th either. And Evan Lathoris, well, you take it when you can get it, because he will come home in the 7th position.
I think he's out of fuel here.
Yeah, he is.
And that is massive, because he's now got to crawl at about 13 kilometers an hour to the line. It's a long and slow and painful run. It's uphill all the way, and I don't think he's going to make it to the start-finish line. What a shame for Martin van Loozenhoort, who's driven a very good race all day long. And, well, it was nice if someone may have given him a push then towards the end. Game over for Martin van Loozenhoort as the rest of the field comes in. And with that much being said, we can get you a classified results then of this field, as Van Loozenhoort will now come to a complete stop out on circuit here. It was a very dominating victory at the end of the day. Michael Partington wins this one out by 14.6 seconds at the end of the day from the 6th machine of Matt J. Farrow. Giuseppe Ragusa, who will finish in 3rd. Manu Domingo will come home 4th position ahead of the driver of Riley Preston, who made a fantastic recovery drive to get back into the top 5. Matteo Ugolotti will steal 6th away as Evan Lathoris finishes 7th with Galin Dimov in position number 8. Kalistani had the top 10, gets himself up tonight with Jorge Marquez rounding out that top 10, profiting from the driver of Martin van Loozenhoort. Vincenzo Amico, what a great last few laps he had to get to P11. Carl Winkler for Core Sim Racing in 12th with Canet Basol. Warmington and Toffoli with Van Loozenhoort finishing 1 lap down as he is unable to finish the event, running out just before the start-finish line. Peter Dimov 1 lap down with Diego Jimenez Hormilia. Tommy Osgard, Neil de Guzman, Reynaldo Augusto, Josh Thompson and Zoran Jonjic are the cars that have failed to finish this one. But for the time being, we're going to step aside for one moment. The post-race show coming to you after these few messages. You're watching the Grand Prix series here on iRacing Live, brought to you by RaceSpotTV. Well, we've had a helter-skelter of a race here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and as always, it seems to crop up with some brilliant, brilliant races. Who can forget what happened in the iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series when Kazuki Umeshima was oh so close to taking that first maiden race victory and had it cruelly taken away from him by Gregor Hutu. But we had a very similar race here today with some great battles throughout the field here. It's the post-race show with hashtag Do You Mind Jake Sperry, Mr. Jack Styles and Mr. Cameron Walsh. Jack, what we saw today was a clinic from Michael Partington, a true way of knowing that even though you lose that lead, you know that it will come back to you and that sometimes losing a position gains you two in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at his lap times, he spent most from about lap 11 onwards. He literally did 2 laps outside of the 117s, so he was consistent. He dominated the field today. He did an absolute stormer of a drive, and he fully deserves that win. And getting 46 laps completed in under an hour. Matt Farah obviously finishing second, 14 seconds behind him, and Ragusa in third. So these guys had a brilliant race today, running very consistently, just keeping themselves out of danger. And as it showed, keeping yourself out of danger just means that actually you can get a good result, and that paid off for Michael Partington today.
And I tell you what else paid off for certain drivers here today, Cam, was the amount of drivers who made a major amount of positions throughout that field. The likes of Matteo Ugolotti, who gained 13 overall. The likes of Matteo Calastani, who moved up a massive 14 positions for the race today. There were a lot of abilities to gain some positions from some very smart driving.
Yeah, and a lot of it, well, I say at least a lot of it at the start was pretty much up to luck. I mean, Zoran Yannick, unfortunately, he ended up having that incident with George Marquez and ended up looping in the car and then, of course, flying the car into the air, which, whilst acrobatic, is not necessarily the point of Formula driving. But that could have ended a lot worse after the car bounced back onto the racing surface. There were some cars that had stopped completely and some cars that really were able to drive around it and not lose much time. And that threw everything into disarray. And then once, of course, you had Riley Preston having to come in and get his wing, there was the spin with Giuseppe Ragusa, which, of course, Preston was a part of. And it just turned into a lot of traffic back and forth. And I think that kept everybody pretty close together. And of course, the DRS does exactly what the DRS was intending to do, and we saw some massive overtakes going into that final chicane.
Yeah, we certainly did here today, and those battles will continue on in 1 week's time, where we'll be heading down south to Texas, because Circuit of the Americas will play host to the second round of the iRacing Grand Prix Series. But unfortunately, that is all we are going to have time for here this afternoon. A big thank you to all the drivers and to all the teams that were racing this one today, and all the fans that are watching at home. Special thanks have to go to Blue Flag Racing for officially funding this broadcast here, and without them, this wouldn't be possible at all to happen. Of course, you have to also give thanks to And Designs, the official graphics partner here at RaceSpotTV, and of course with Istvan Balog's track camera packs for gourmet. Make sure that you check those out and make sure that you use those for your broadcasts in the future. Also, big shout out goes to ATVO and Appgeneer, our official graphics overlay here at RaceSpotTV. But for the time being, that's been Mr. Paul Smith sitting very quietly behind the cameras. That has been Mr. Cameron Walsh and Mr. Jack Styles. I have been hashtag Do You Mind Jake Sperry, and there is so much more that happens in the world of RaceSpotTV. Don't forget, the Skip Barber 2K World Cup starts up once again here on RaceSpotTV later on this evening. You don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss any more of what we have to offer. Good night.